Jeff Gabriel Connection.
Hey, Alicia, how are you today?
Great. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
Good. Welcome to the Jeff Gabriel Connection. For those that are going to be listening today, we have Alicia Hogan Murphy, who is the author of Walnut Grove. And Walnut Grove is a book that I actually just picked up because I was going to be doing the interview with you and read, and it really brought back a lot of memories. It really what it is, it's an homage to Little House on the Prairie, Michael Landon, and the stories, the insights, the feelings, the emotions that the viewers would get, but also the life lessons and the virtues that you could pick up from the book. And it really brought back a lot of memories, really set my memory synapses on fire. And I started, as I said to you before, it really started to allow me to remember some of the characters from the past that I forgot about. So these books, no matter how many people read them, whether the distribution is wide or small, they always have ripple effects. And my first question is obviously you have an attachment and a passion for Little House on the Prairie, Michael Landon. It made you go write a book, which is a very, very hard thing to do. Tell me a little bit about what motivated you to get involved and write this book. And congratulations in writing it, because it's a major feat to write a book.
Thank you. Yeah, this project has been so exciting for me and so much fun. I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie. It first aired when I was 3 years old, and my mother was already a fan of Michael Landon from Bonanza. She had watched him on Bonanza. And it's funny, I obviously was very little when it started, but I remember her saying to me, I have to watch my favorite actor's new show. And because there were children on the show, I immediately, and there were little girls, Laura, Mary, Carrie, I immediately was enamored by the whole thing. And so we would watch it together, which was a very nice mother-daughter time. And as you know, the show had so many uplifting messages, and the values, the lessons that came from it were, I think great from a parenting perspective. Fast forward to the pandemic lockdown of 2020, we're all in our homes with our families, and I was reaching for anything uplifting. I think most of us were. And I found myself watching a lot of reruns of Little House, and I started really taking note of those positive messages and things that I could kind of take notes on for myself as a parent, because it's hard today. Everything's very fast paced, and they have access to so much because of the internet.
Right.
So as I started making these notes, I thought, I wonder if I wrote a book about the lessons that it teaches and things that we can try to remember as parents. Would other parents enjoy that? So I started writing it in book form, and that was a great outlet for me because I tend to struggle with anxiety. And so, as many people found when COVID hit and we were all like unsure of what was happening, people's anxiety crept up a little bit. And this was a great way for me to channel that, or have an outlet for that. Then I thought, I wonder if any of the cast members would have anything to contribute, or if they would be interested in participating in this book. And I could not believe how warm and welcoming they were. This group of people is unbelievable, amazing. And I can tell you, even though I wasn't there, I can kind of tell you that I know they had an extremely positive atmosphere on that set because of the way they embraced this project and welcomed me. They don't know me, but they were so enthusiastic and supportive and on board. So
did you have a chance to speak to many of the cast members that are still around?
I did. I think I got to speak to about, I think there was 12. And they allowed me to FaceTime them, call them, email them, have Zooms with them. It was, and for somebody who's been a fan of the show her whole life and took something from it, it was like a dream for me to be. And then a publisher snatched it up because he felt it was also valuable. So the whole thing, the experience as it rolled out was surreal for me. It was wonderful.
I have a little 4.5-year-old boy and 5, and I'm wondering how I'm going to instill certain values and what he's going to watch. He likes to sit around and watch YouTube Kids, and the children today and the millennials and these generations are so, driven and affected by social media, which we know is a whole other story and a whole other episode, but are not teaching and instilling the values of the disciplines that, Little House on the Prairie did. And I used to sit and watch that show with my great aunt who lived with us and used to take care of me. She used to love when the girl would frolic in the hay as part of the opening scene. That was like her big thing. And, she would go nuts. And I was always a Michael Landon fan. And, I was always identified with, little Joe on that, what is it, Bonanza, right? I mean, that was another great, family show. And these shows really don't exist anymore. And I think it's wonderful that you've taken the time and really, like I said, really sparked and connected a lot of memories for me. And it was nice to remember those people and to hear the stories that you've taken from those scenes, interjected into your book, and then it amplified and communicated out to the public. I see you got a couple of the books behind you. So you're not like a first time author. This is something that you've been involved with. You know how to write a book, you know how to structure, you know the process.
Yeah, this was my 4th book. My dream growing up was always to be a children's author. So my first 2 books were children's books, and then I did a humorous parenting book. And the theme of that is kind of, we're all in this together. This is, can be a tough gig, this parenting thing, but you're not alone. And so then this Little House book kind of goes into that parenting theme as well, but it's got a different twist.
It's not only though a book, it's sort of, you've created a bit of a historical document, and the people that were involved with producing it and the characters, I'm sure they really appreciate it because it's been many, many years. That show was on for probably 8 or 9 years. That's a long running show, but that was back in the 70s, right? I was a little kid. My little son watches Curious George, which teaches lessons. But on the adult side and the adult theme, what else is out there? So I think it's a very good subject matter, a poignant series to write about. What is there anything else out there, do you think? I mean, that comes close to, I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. It's a very special show.
I mean, there's, and reruns you can find, besides the Waltons, you can find besides Little House, you can find the Waltons, you can find Seventh Heaven, you can find Happy Days, the Brady Bunch, but
right.
Prime time, I don't think at nighttime, at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, there's really anything on these days that instills the kind of things that Little House did in terms of lessons and values. And
it's not dysfunctional enough. It needs to be like, an action crime detective, superhero, something really dysfunctional to draw all the eyes, because there's so much competition. Back then there was only 3 or 4 major TV channels, so it was a lot easier to have something a little bit more pure. Now when you need to grab all these different eyes, it's really hard. But I just wanted to let you know that we also have a special guest here, someone that's agreed to join and come onto the show, who was a character on the show, which was really, really, really cool, special young girl at the time on the show. And this is Wendi Lou Lee, which was Baby Grace. And she's here today. Hi, Wendi. How are you?
Hi. How's it going?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
That's great. That's great to have you. It's great to have you.
So fun. Yeah.
So Wendi, have you read the book?
Yes. I read it on a road trip this last summer, driving across the country, and I would talk to my family while I was reading. Oh, listen to this.
Right. But because you were so young on the show, because we had a chance to talk a little bit before the interview as well, it was hard for you to remember all the episodes and all your involvement because you were just a little 4-year-old girl at the time, correct?
Well, yeah, my last season I was 4. So we started at 8 months old, my twin sister and I, Brenda, and season 8 was our last season and I was 4.5. So, I mean, I've been traveling with the cast for like the last 15 years. So most of the stories in the book I have heard, but yes, I love talking about Little House. I love reading about Little House. So yeah, it was a joy.
You said you travel with a cast. Do you do different events and things like that? Is that what that's about?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. We just go wherever they ask us to go. A lot of times is the Midwest, so Missouri, Minnesota, South Dakota, but we've been to Tucson, Arizona, and Beatrice, Nebraska, and Keystone, South Dakota. And so we just go around and sign autographs and talk to fans and usually do a bunch of Q&As, and it's so fun. I mean, especially for me, because I'm just like this little girl that kind of remembers, so I like really feel like I'm baby Grace now because I get to experience it with the cast, and they are just top notch, so amazing. I mean, we just like Little House just like changed our lives. It just came to us in the most amazing way when we were so small. And my mom was a single mom with 3 little toddlers, and Little House just landed in her lap. And the cast and crew were like the best cast and crew you could ever have, the most welcoming, the most family oriented, just so amazing. So
yeah, it was a different type of Hollywood, and it was a different time from now. And I believe that, you and your sister, had a connection with Michael Landon, or he sort of, really welcomed you, and he was close, and you spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah, I mean, Michael was just a teddy bear, especially to all the kids. I mean, he would just play jokes and put frogs in his mouth, and like was always snickering. And there was I think it was our first season, and we were trying to get our first fan mail picture. And so they put us, we're like 8 months old. They put us on the wood pile right outside the house. Like, what 8-month-old is going to sit on a wood pile, right? So they want us to sit there together, and they want to take a picture. And we were just bawling our heads off. And it's like, okay, how is this going to work? And Michael walks over, he sits down next to us. He totally calms us down. They get a picture with the 3 of us, which is like one of my favorite pictures. And then he just quietly creeps out of the way, and we get our family picture, the 2 of us on the woodpile, looking as happy as ever. Like, he just had this calming presence, especially with the children. He was just he had this like little goofy way about him. And it was, just attracted the kids on the show. And there were so many kids on the show. I mean, it wouldn't have worked any other way. So,
Alicia, I was just going to go back to you a little bit and talk a little bit more. I mean, obviously your books had an effect on Wendi, and it's nice to see Wendi. Have any of the other, members of the cast talked to you a little bit about the book and what the books meant to them?
Hersha Parody, who played Alice Garvey, she sent me several emails over a few months as she was reading the book. And each time I got one, I just would fill up because, she would say, "You're unbelievable. You're funny. You're sensitive. Your writing is conversationally spoken. I feel like I'm listening to you speak as I read it." And so for me to hear a cast member say that about this project that has to do with this show that I've loved forever, it was just amazing. And Wendi was nice enough to put a review, very positive review on Amazon about it. I did send all the cast members all of my books, and several of them emailed and thanked me for my love of Little House and for including them in the project. And it's just been really such a positive experience, like the show itself. It's just been really, really fun.
This is also really a contribution to Michael Landon's legacy and his memory and some of the final hardships that he had at the end of his life. I mean, because he had in a very short period of time, because he died at a relatively young age. He was on a number of very, very popular shows, and he made a very wide, varied contribution to numerous types of viewers across the board, from young women, young families, young couples to men. And he made a major impact, and a lot of people don't talk about him today. So your book, do you have any connection to maybe a family or a foundation or any sort of legacies that he's left behind that have had a chance to experience what you've written?
Yes, as a matter of fact, so the book was accepted for publication in January, and the 30th anniversary of Michael's death was July, this past. And I said to the publisher, this is a really important anniversary, and if I know this doesn't usually happen in the publishing world, but if possible, could we push to get this out for the anniversary? And he said, I agree. That would be a really nice tribute to him. It's 30th anniversary of his passing.
And this also to me sounds like a little house on the prairie story, to hear about your stories about you developing your discipline and your passion for writing these books. Thank you for, being on the show today. Thank you so much.